active character is the big monkey. Levi is the predator currently tearing him apart. I think it further builds that incredible suspense because for us, even Levi now feels distance. Ditto for the music, it's just this cold ambient piano. Levi is this cold predator just ruthlessly tearing him apart. It is a beautiful juxtaposition of a lot of tenseness and also no tenseness at all. Another thing that I absolutely love here is how Levi brings Zeke down. I've seen some people say that this is just his rage manifested, as in he doesn't go in for the kill on purpose. He slowly carves him apart to just inflict as much pain as possible. But yeah, I don't think so. The entire method of first arms, then eyes, then legs is exactly what we saw with the squad during the Annie mission. Difference between them and Levi is that he can do all of that solo. So yes, Levi is currently burning up from the inside, but this methodical carving of Zeke, I don't think it is just rage. It's a very practical concern of bringing him down completely and ensuring that he is well and truly done. All the slicey dices are still absolutely glorious though. Another small detail.
URL.
Airheads have more fun. Who has a question for Miss Quinta?
I'm not in every single movie yet. So thank you for your belief in me.
I'm here on Celebrity Substitute, where Amazon steps up and the celebrity steps in. For the lesson of a lifetime.
I'm gonna keep that right for television.
Watch full episodes on YouTube now.
Something we basically never see even with the likes of Mikasa. Multiple times we see him go from right hand forward with an inverse grip to right hand forward with a normal grip. To him, his swords are basically an extension of his arm. At every opportunity, he will switch to maximize the damage he can inflict with resisting momentum. I just love how smooth it is. His combat style is hands down my favorite in the series, and it's not even close. Anyway, I have no idea how this would work because it probably wouldn't, but scenes like this has me dreaming of a FromSoft Attack on Titan game. This scene of Zeke going down just needs that great enemy feld overlay. And I also absolutely love how we see Zeke within the Titan. It's almost as if the ground he just stood upon had fallen out from beneath his feet, and his lumbering body just comes crashing down. And the fisheye shot, with the very clever smoke transition by the way, is also beautiful. And of course, the money shots. We get this incredible sequence of Levi flipping through the air, and then this almost GoPro shots of his ODM gear adjusting his movements. And Levi then absolutely annihilates Zeke's other hand before zooming back on over to his torso. And fun fact, there is literally one frame from Zeke's hand being pristine to having 9 slashes all throughout. So, yeah, if
Round start.
throwing stuff at Mach 2, this Beyblade might give him a run for his money. And of course, the zoom out more perspective shot we get of Levi sitting on top of Zeke has to be one of the most iconic shots in the entire series. Considering how the entirety of Attack on Titan's story has played out thus far, it is absolutely insane to think that we went from this dude single-handedly wiping out the entirety of Erwin's squad to being completely humiliated a couple of episodes later. This isn't even being torn limb from limb. This is being carved up like a, I don't know, like bread? Bread has a lot of slices, I guess. Bread aside though, those war perspective shots were always with specialty, and I absolutely love how seamlessly they integrate that slightly surreal perspective to even further accentuate the events on screen. One thing that always surprised me though is how they chose to portray Levi's slicey dices, because normally I would say this is a little bit over the top for a series like Attack on Titan. I mean, look at it. It looks like SEO sword skills. But the thing is, despite having those typical lightning fast anime slicey dices, it still doesn't feel like too much because it still feels visceral. In large part, I think that is because of how the fight actually ends. Those slicey dices, they don't finish the fights. The thing that actually ends the fight is a very, very weighty cleave that is also further accentuated by the immediately preceding scene of Levi like locking. Yeah, as much as I joke about Levi being a literal Beyblade, the final scene of this fight is something we know very, very well and definitely doesn't feel over the top. It is just one massive cleave that like covers half the screen in blood, and it is glorious. Oh yeah, and some of the frames you get in between here are also so clean, it is insane. The one and only thing I could ever nitpick in the sequence is the ground. The skies and the clouds are gorgeous as usual. But in some of these shots, the ground does unfortunately look a little bit bland and a little PS2 era.
Okay, what do we here?
POV? Little grass. That probably means you should touch a little bit more grass. Also, not sure how intentional this is, but the shots we get of Levi standing atop Zeke definitely seem evocative of no regrets, and Levi standing alone after losing Isabel.
Hello.
It is time for a pants intermission, because while we're still gushing about the animation, here is a bombshell that my dumb brain didn't realize in the previous episode. You know that Zeke going scene that's kind of like a, I don't know, big paragraph talking about? Yeah, so, it's literally a scene from season 2. Yeah, when he was fighting BK, it's the same thing. Thank you, John Wick, for pointing this out. This is very valuable information that will not live rent-free in my head for the rest of days. Thank you. But okay, as much as I joke about it, obviously it doesn't take away anything from the scene. It is still a very, very good scene, and I mean, there's a lot of cleverly reused animation with Zeke anyway. So, this is just something I didn't notice, and now I want you to notice. I want you to notice forever, just like me. Just like when we were going to know that it's the same scene. Same BK scene. Not only did BK die, Erwin also died. To the same scene. As Levi's mind begins to drift to someone, anyone who could get the injection and turn him into a Titan, we get this really gnarly zoom-out shot of the scout's bodies broken and contorted. There is obviously some very, very heavy censorship here, but the scene itself is still pretty chill. And the music here, man, I need a props off it so much. Problem is, as Levi's mind drifts to Erwin, Pete pops up and rejoins Zeke. I know a ton of people have wondered, where in the bloody hell was she even at during the entire Zeke versus Levi standoff? Personally, I think there are two answers to that. First off, the fight itself probably lasted like all of 30 seconds. In episode runtime-wise, it was like 1 minute. I think if you cut out all the mini flashbacks and all the slow-motion accentuated clues, etc., it is like 20 to 30 seconds at the absolute most. So even if she was nearby, it would just take time to get to them. And more importantly, numero 2, remember that she was constantly running around and looking for new rocks for Zeke. So yes, she was basically that community meme of coming back with pizzas only to see the entire room on fire. But hands down the best scene here is as they run off, Levi just standing there and mumbling to himself. It is so hopeless and just so tired, it's brilliant. But something that I think a whole lot of people tend to overlook is that this scene right here reveals something absolutely massive. Zeke is commanding the Titans while in his human form. The only other person we've seen do this is Eren, and with him, that is pretty clearly implied to be this weird mystical coordinates. So considering all the royal blood talk we already had with Astoria, I think this tiny scene right here could fundamentally start shifting how you think about the bigger story. And, well, we know it did. Zeke's royal blood is the thing that shapes, like, most of Season 4. Okay, but why does the Titan look like Castro? Though as we cut back to Levi, he just says he made a promise, that of course being getting Zeke's head. And so, he reloads his swords and continues his Beyblade activities. Levi's promise to Eren and his hatred of Zeke will continue to be a huge part of his story moving forward. So I think this is just a nice intro to the now changing Levi post Erwin's death. Somehow, some way, he has grown even more cold. And for another very chilling scene, we pop back on over to Flock, who wakes up among the bodies, just muttering, "Why am I alive?" Which, you know, probably messes up a person pretty bad.
Eliminate the enemy team.
Definitely messes up.
Round start.
As we come over to the inside of Shigasha, we get some worlds actually already there in honor. Just like Levi and Zeke, so the also the most they can hope for is just those parallels really very much. What I also notice is that their souls unlock some notes. First wondering, what exercise by now? But then thinking about that, Hanji was right. The Titan powers are not infinite. In Eren's multiple transformations, her battery steam must be draining his extremely powers. Most importantly, in the skeleton remaining intact, so he can keep you away now. Well, you know, that's the whole backstory. But two, because it again brings up a ton of questions about Frost. We've talked about Frost probably too much before. think the armor was either still or maybe he just wants to run away. I guess the simplest way to put it is that if Reiner had enough time to store his consciousness in the base guitar, definitely should have had more than enough time to vaporize himself, considering his best was like, what, 45 seconds? Frost Weird aside, just like Levi and Erwin, Armin performed that only for Jean to follow through and say that led to absolute emotional devastation because on a rewatch, Armin knows exactly such a gut punch because like whether it's your first or 100th time watching this, it is absolutely gut-wrenching just to watch and before we continue to say anything about this, let me tell you about the outside world. But this is essentially just a chapter from Armin's book that we talked about, so not just in this episode, we get this beautiful, serious real sequence as Armin while the rest of the world and watches over it. And again, for him, it was a really scouting cause. For Armin on this, they have humanity, they have story, they have house, they have blood burning the line of hands. And on top of this, which also creates this duality of seeing the ocean to be actually ignorant less about the response. As we've seen many, many times in the story, pursuing their dreams will get results. Armin is the narrator of the story. You can argue that this shot of them staring at the now, I don't want to grenade out. Also, Reiner's pseudo-amnesia here of him not remembering the Thunder School is kind of your typical, oh wow, so convenient amnesia things. He goes down on the same in getting over just so he can function as this sort of grenade out! The dub actually has some here with but man, that giggling voice is younger and I remember that Erwin's charge is a blind stream of it. Aaron then falls the entire planet is based around fake. He's not like that. Aaron grappling inside of his face. I've seen some people say that and I've seen others say that he might be angry if he has to go. Fire in the hole! In the meantime, not all perhaps foolish and so, but he will stand his ground and never get hit. He will be focused on even just his friend Aaron gets a glimpse at how Ed was. His final words really just for both of us as his body stops. I think the fact that it is so much louder than air was charged that it's just so horrifying and so incredibly sad that and as if the girl hadn't waited for emotions enough, Hanji realistically, yes, Armin should be dead. Of course he should. He was burned to a crisp and then fell 50, if not a full 16 years after that. Every bone in his body would have been shattered. Do I care though? Yeah, no, not at all. I will happily complain about magic systems and the colossal poofing. But if Ishiyama wants to create what is the most insane trolley fountain imaginable, then I will happily suspend my disbelief. This balance of telling a story and not undermining the rules of the world is something we'll return to plenty more with Season 4. But with Armin specifically, this is not something I would ever call as inconsistent writing or anything like that. But as we see Eren drag Bertolt to the rest of their squad, his face is just hollow as he thinks to himself that, of course I knew. And with that, we get another tiny little flashback of Kid Armin crying as the now very familiar bully trio walks off. And that is where Armin drops the line of, I never lost because I never ran away. We linger on Eren's eyes for quite some time, and the question that arises for me is, Eren's keep moving forward. Who is that from? In episode 6, Grisha mentioned that Eren only has one friend, that being Armin. So, if he was the first ever person Eren actually befriended and actually liked, could that statement actually come from the supposed weakling Armin, the true hero in this entire story? Well, whatever the case, I don't think there's much of a debate to be had here. Armin is more than deserving of the title hero. Not just because of this episode or even his influence on Eren, but because he is truly selfless. Up until his last moments, he sought a peaceful resolution. He pleaded with Bertolt to just talk it out when everyone told him it's already too late. And when he realized that it was impossible, the first person who he threw in the fray was himself. The sad thing about Armin is that I think for a lot of people, he is massively overshadowed by Eren. But I think that's kind of the point. He isn't some hardened hype man commander for whom you will happily give your life. Because Armin doesn't want you to give your life up for anyone. I think a lot of people simply mistake his compassion for weakness. And so I think it's incredibly fitting that we end this episode with Eren just saying, I always knew that you were the bravest one out of any of us. And with that, that is episode 54. I think the absolute strongest point of praise I can give this episode is the fact that we literally just had Eren's charge, and we now know that Armin doesn't die. But the episode still hits just as hard all the same, and that is very hard to pull off. And from a production point of view, I also want to give them massive props for not bringing in the Eren debate right here at the very, very end. Again, we know, and they know, that Armin doesn't actually die, so bringing in the dilemma here at the very, very end would be like an insane cliffhanger, right? But the adaptation team still said no. Let's actually let Armin sacrifice that's not actually a sacrifice, still breathe. More than anything, I think it just shows how much they respect the source material. Yeah, they could have pushed up the cliffhanger, but they didn't want to overshadow Armin.
Eliminate the enemy team. Round start.
And that's not to mention that this is the same episode where we have a Levi versus also went down in the space of like 10 minutes. Yeah, for me, this is definitely the best episode of watching. Sure, the last one, their force is showing up, did have like higher highs. This one is just unrelenting. I love it. All that said, next time we are in for one of the heaviest episodes in the entire series. It was that he doesn't have intro, he barely has any music. All it has is a long song. So I hope to see you coming as we continue over on my way. You know how I've been saying that I've been really dreading writing these scripts because like these episodes are just so that it's insane. Yeah, so about that. Maybe we'll go for the next episode, but perhaps even more so, I'm already expecting the shippers to go here. So yeah, that's going to be fun. I joke about it, and I don't want to throw any shade anyway, but if I were to draw a Venn diagram between shippers and some of the most unhinged comments I've ever seen in my life, well, he does kind of just look like a circle. Whatever the case, though, I am very much looking forward to it. All that said, I want to say a massive thank you to our current patron, YouTube. Episode 55 is Friday the Sun, referencing the natural phenomena that occurs in the Arctic and Antarctic coast where the sun is invisible even during nighttime. This episode is about saving your dreams, about trying to Levi is forced into a choice. His and humanity is connected. The only person he would rely on to just not die. A boy with that same spark in his eyes that his commander once had. The same selfless drive that brought the further than this will be the triumph over adversity of the lights, never going out even as night falls. And even if they're very relaxed. Grenade out! And in a more abstract sense, while it is very much a real phenomenon, I think that itself is a really worse. It's a real wonder. Just as all the good nights, as if you finally found yourself the best fights into the shifting world of music. And in an even more abstract sense, the people living in Polish over the phenomena probably a lot more harder than the average person. The only thing you their lives celestial events that the majority of the world can't even picture. From a structural point of view, this episode is also a pretty radical challenge. There is no cold open, no issue. For a vast majority of this episode, there is no music because there's no gap in on the story that he tells us. The tracks we see in the series are guiding tracks. They are meant to convey some sort of emotion and contextualize the events we see on screen. This episode is purposely we sort of hear the audience all that is said and done, are meant to decide how we actually feel about the story. It's almost like a stage play. Right up until the end of the episode, there's never any sort of explosive moment of mysterious as to why it's there. It's actually a long block after the anime, and the dub team even didn't want to add it back, so they put it back in. It's very cheap because we never actually see it in the street. It's a cutaway to Levi, so we never know. Imagine what the bursting boys and girls would be doing if Pete never existed. It's a real tragedy. Later they attack on Titan himself. After a while, you see how changed the parts design to like having a very long nose and that magically being Pete. I've got no idea. The old dude just looks like the old dude. Why does Pete look like this? Well, I guess we'll never know. Next time though, Levi finally lands on roof, asking for blades and gas. But in that same moment, army cops and creative attack. That off is the sun, the small spark of life in the darkness all around them. We then hop on over to Hanji's side, with them bandaging each other up and interrogating Reiner about the weird metal cage that we now know is housing Amir's letter. This is where I goofed up a little bit, because I assumed that in that great little flashback scene, Reiner was just doing the dedicate your heart salutes while mentioning Amir. Admittedly though, it does make a whole lot more sense that he is actually just going to touch the actual letter itself. That said, I still don't think it actually changes anything about what I said. Be it from a in-universe sense or more so a meta one, I think putting the letter there of all places is meant to deliberately evoke the salutes. But yes, really, it is the letter, so I just got a little bit lost in the sauce there. It happens, that's like all this overanalyzing. But anyway, the most important thing here is Hanji saying that he was still trying to reach for it, even as his legs and arms were being chopped off. Despite the, big betrayal and him trying to wipe everyone out, this very much tracks with the dependable Reiner we've heard so much about. In the grand scheme of things, the letter is completely and utterly meaningless. This is a war in which Marley aims to wipe out parody as a whole, but even so, he aims to fulfill that promise. Maybe it is because he himself, or at least the soldier Reiner, is crushing on Storia, or maybe it is built 100% for Amir. The point is, even now, he's trying honoring that promise.